So in the last meeting, we saw diverse art movements after avant-garde. So let's just quickly remind it. So we can divide it, the modern art as two, like before the avant-garde and then after avant-garde. And before the avant-garde, the modern art movements are still based on the observational styles, since the photographs development was just the beginning steps. And then after avant-garde, after the photographs development was completed, the many of artists saw the new style of art in abstract ways. So based on that, the happening avant-garde, the art movement arose. So we saw Fauvism with the Henri Matisse work, and Expressionism, right? We saw two artists. One is Edward Munch, like this. And the other artist is Vasily Kandinsky, who was used to be a musician. So his work very rhythmical, like this. And then we saw also Cubism. The most famous Cubist artist is Pablo Picasso, right? So he created the Cubism style of art. This. And also we saw the Dada art movement during the world wars. So Dada means anti. And the most famous Dadaist artist was Marcel Duchamp, who are using who is using the ready-made work of styles, right? So now we're gonna see the rest of the art movements after avant-garde, surrealism and the idealism. So let's see the surrealism first. So the next art movement we are going, this surrealism was formulated in Paris in the 1920s. Like Dada, surrealism was not a style, but a way of life. Fascinated by the theories of the psychologist Sigmund Freud, who was then setting out his revolutionary ideas in Vienna, the surrealists appreciated the power of dreams and the mysterious of the unconscious and the lure of the bizarre, and the irrational, the incongruous, and the marvelous. So I will show you two surrealist artists. The first artist is Salvador Dali. Dali was a Spanish surrealist artist, and Dali was a skilled draftsman, best known for the striking and bizarre images in his work. His painterly skills are often attributed to the influence of Renaissance masters. So let's see his work of art. So this is it. So everyone look at this painting. What you can see here, it looks very, technically, the painting technique looks very realistic, but seems like the theme of the work is not realistic, right? What kind of things, can you see in this paintings?
It's basically like the depth of time, like the
Oh,
clock or
yeah.
dying,
Mhm.
slow girl looks like they're dying.
Oh yeah. Mm, I love that. I love that, your, the opinion of this painting. Very good. What else? It seems like something very profound things here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the iconography, I mean this painting, the persistence of memory, is a 1931 painting by Dali and one of the most recognizable works of surrealism. So this iconography may refers to a dream that Dali himself had experienced, and the clocks. The clocks may symbolize a passing of time as one experiences it in sleep, or the persistence of time in the eyes of the dreamer. And the orange clock here at the bottom left of the painting is covered in ants. And ants, a common theme in Dali's work, represent decay, particularly when they attack a gold watch. And they seem grotesquely organic. And the mysterious, this flash creature dragged across the painting center is at once alien and familiar. An approximation of Dali's own face in profile, its long eyelashes seem disturbingly insect-like or even sexual, as does what may or may not be the tongue oozing from his nose like a flat snail. So I'm going to share a video to see this work in detail.
I think as you look modern art, there is this tiny painting by Salvador Dali, which is the painting that everybody wants to see. That and Starry Night by Van Gogh are the two stars. And I thought it would be really interesting to talk about why this painting is so wildly popular. So this is The Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dali.
And here, I understand why people kind of connect to it now. I mean, anybody who's ever tried to make an album for a rock band is inspired by Salvador Dali. There's also this kind of fun of what are you looking at? He's really playing with reality. You know, it's kind of like a visual brain teaser.
Is that it? Is it so popular? Is it on album cover art because it's this attack on the rational, and that's such a seductive idea?
Yeah, it's mind trippy. I like what you phrase. It's an attack on the rational. I mean, I guess there might be more to it, but that's my sense.
You know, you were talking about album cover art and posters on, you know, maybe a dorm room. And what's interesting is that these artists took these ideas really seriously. This was surrealism. This was painted in 1931. Dali, this Spanish artist, this Catalan artist, had just come to Paris and had joined the surrealist group.
I'm assuming he's considered significant because he was the first person to essentially do dreamscapes and these, as you mentioned, attack on the rational.
When you walk into this painting visually, you enter into this really deep, open, and lonely space. And it's this really quiet image.
Yeah, it's kind of this desert scape, ignoring the melting clocks for a moment. You feel that, okay, if you were in this landscape, yes, time really does not really carry a lot of weight. You could just kind of wither there and die and no one would care. Even that kind of water in the background, there's no waves in it. It's like they've had time to settle down. There's literally no activity.
There's this unbearable sense of quiet. There is almost no movement. And I think it does feel very desert-like, very hot. Literally, time has melted, right? But we have this absurd environment. We do have this very naturalistic rendering. But the things that are being rendered are not naturalistic at all. You mentioned the dead tree on the left, but it's growing out of something that seems clearly man-made or at least geometric, a tabletop perhaps. You have ants that seem to be eating and attracted to a piece of metal as opposed to a piece of rotted flesh.
Oh, that's what that is. I couldn't fully make it out. Okay, so they're eating away at a timepiece. That's fascinating.
And of course, you have the drooping clocks. And that's such an interesting and evocative idea because time is something that is so regimented. Time is something that rules us, that is so associated with the industrial culture that we live in. And here, it responds to the environment as we respond to the environment.
Well, one, you have that tabletop, and there's another one in the background. And even the way that the light is set up, especially at that cliff, it looks like it's sunset. So it's kind of like, hey, just another day has passed. Who cares?
Now, there are some identifiable things. I mean, for all of the absurdity and for all of the impossibility of what we're seeing, there are some things that our historians have recognized. The cliffs in the back are, we think, the cliffs of the Catalonian coast in northern Spain, where Dali is from. And so this is his childhood, perhaps. Some art historians have concluded that that strange figure, almost a profile face, you just make out an eye with extremely long lashes and perhaps a tongue under a nose.
This is the whole optical illusion part of Dali. Yeah, I thought it was like a blanket, but now I completely see it, the eyelashes. I thought it was a duck for a second, too. I see the eyelashes and the top of the nose.
Yeah, Dali does that funny thing where one object can actually be several things at once, sometimes really convincingly. Some art historians think this is his face, but elusive and very much a kind of dream.
Well, I mean, that goes back in the category. This is more of that kind of Dormu optical illusion type art.
Well, that's right. Surrealism posited that the rational world that we have so much faith in was perhaps not worthy of all of that faith, that the irrational was just as important, but was something that we had sublimated, something that we had tried to drive out of our life. And the way that these artists and writers thought about it was if only they could retrieve the world of the dream. Some of the artists had read Freud, some of them had only heard sort of secondhand accounts of Freud. But the idea that the dream was a place where the irrational mind came to the fore unrestricted.
This is something that I guess often confronts me is even the notions that how we perceive what we think as objective reality is really based on how our brain is wired. We see these causes and effects, we see linear time. This is how humans are wired. I mean, I think that's what's fun about these type of things. It kind of says, well, you know, look, there's different forms of reality, and who are we as creatures that are wired one particular way to be all that judgmental about what's real?
When people have looked at this painting, they have sometimes, and I think unconvincingly, tried to link it to Einstein's earlier ideas of the
Time dilation and
exactly. And the time was not, in fact, a strict thing. But I think there's more evidence that Dali is thinking about ideas of a philosopher whose name is Bergson, who thought about time as something that was not simply what struck on a clock, but that there was a kind of human time that was more subjective and that expanded and contracted according to our experience.
time is this thing that sometimes scares us because we completely don't understand it, even though it's kind of the most fundamental component of our existence. We fundamentally don't understand it, and we try to measure it out. We try to constrain it, define it in some way that makes sense to us. I think that's what this piece is maybe trying to do, is that like these clocks are stupid. These are just our futile attempts to try to label. It's kind of like if you label something or if you measure something, you feel like you actually understand it even though you don't.
I think this is that moment when all those safe ideas of objectivity are being blown out of the water. And we're seeing an art that is in some really interesting ways confronting that.
All right.
Professor,
Yes.
can I ask a quick question about the painting again?
Yep.
So like, you know how like in the bottom left, that's like supposed to be a clock,
Mm-hmm.
if and it ants surrounded it. So, but I noticed that not only is it a like a brownish color now, but there's no like numbers of time or I don't know what the lines, I forgot the name of the dials are, but could you say that since ants and like other insects are normally attracted to like living things, could you say that the ants kind of finished off that clock or finished off that time?
It's kind of hard to answer it because the meaning of the insects is very profound of this painting. So as I know, the ants is just it's a sort of brought up to decay his the time in the under his ego. So so it feels like the time is like melting in his so he maybe the artist was stuck in the his somewhere in the dream world ego, so I guess he wants to represent it by the this the insects, the ants, hold his time in somewhere, some mysterious places like the dream. So
Okay.
that's my just interpretation, but I'm not sure of it. But it was kind of very close to the original intention of the artist, I guess. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. All right. So now the next surrealism artist is Rene Magritte. So and the Rene Magritte was a Belgian surrealist artist, and he became well known for creating several witty and thought-provoking images, just like the Salvador Dali, often depicting ordinary subjects in an unusual context. His work is known for challenging observers' preconditioned perceptions of reality. So this is his work of art. So this piece depicts a scene of Raining Men, so nearly identical to each other, dressed in dark overcoats and bowler hats, so who seem to be either falling down like raindrops or floating up like helium balloons, or just staying stationed in the middle air as no movement or motion is implied. So the backdrop features red roofed buildings and the moist blue parts of the cloudy sky, lending credence to the theory that the men are not raining. And like this painting, many of surrealist artists, they were interested in the masks, disguises, and what lies beyond or beneath visual surfaces. So the surrealism offered a personal solution to life during the years following the trauma of World War I. But in the view of many artists, society, and possibly even human nature itself had to be transformed so that such a horror would not happen again. So that art could play a central role in bringing about a better society with 19th century ideas. Yet it found renewed application after World War I in a collective approach. So in the arts, idealism encourages imagination and attempts to realize a mental conception of beauty, a standard of perfection, juxtaposed to aesthetic naturalism and realism. The artist of this title reduced art to essential geometric shapes and primary colors, believing that these were universal understood visual language. So the most famous associated with this title is Piet Mondrian. So Piet Mondrian is a Dutch painter. He is known for being one of the pioneers of 20th century abstract art. as he changed his artistic direction from figurative painting to an increasingly abstract style until he reached a point where his artistic vocabulary was reduced to simple geometric elements. Mondrian's art was highly utopian and was concerned with the search for universal values and aesthetics. So this is his work. It looks very, very simple, right? So as the years progressed, the lines began to take precedence over forms in Mondrian's paintings in the 1930s. He began to use the thinner lines and double lines more frequently, punctuated with a few small colored forms, if any at all. So double lines like this particularly excited Mondrian, for he believed that they offered his paintings a new dynamism, which he was eager to explore. And there are lots of artists who with diverse art movements in 19th and 17th century. So, but I'm going to share this video first. So Mondrian's works are used by many contemporary artists' works or designs. So I'm going to show you the examples like this in fashion.
Are the hallmark of artist Piet Mondrian. But the same artist, still known today for his instantly recognizable pattern, started out painting these.
Lots of product
This
designs.
summer, an exhibit at the Gemeente Museum in The Hague traces Mondrian's path from that to this. Benno Temple, the museum's director, explains.
So in the Netherlands, there has always been a very strong tradition in landscape dating back from the 17th century. And it was almost a golden rule. The horizon was low, so you had 1/3 of the painting being a landscape and 2/3 of the painting being sky with the famous Dutch clouds.
But even in his early career, Mondrian is ready to break the rules.
He has this early painting around 1900, a ditch by a farm, a landscape with the horizon very high, so there's almost no sky. And there is a tree standing in the foreground of the painting, dividing the painting into, you could almost say, squares and lines.
In 1911, Mondrian moves to Paris, where the Cubist painters Georges Braque and Pablo Picasso influenced Mondrian to experiment with increasingly abstract styles. In 1915, Mondrian returns to the Netherlands and joins the Laren artist colony, where he befriends two artists who push him even further toward abstraction. Together, these three participate in the founding of the De Stijl movement. Like many artistic movements at the time, this group tried to make a definite break from the past. No more Dutch clouds and windmills for these guys. Mondrian calls his style at this time neoplasticism. Mondrian writes,
"This new plastic idea will ignore the particulars of appearance. On the contrary, it should find its expression in the abstraction of form and color, that is to say, in the straight line and the clearly defined primary color."
It all boils down to straight lines and primary colors, the signature Mondrian look you see in stores and on runways today. But despite how far Mondrian's style evolved from Dutch landscapes, it's still possible to see a connection to his early works.
Although they're completely different, one is figurative, the other is abstract. You see that it's almost the same division of picture planes. And it's not done on purpose, it's done by intuition.
All right. So that's it for this chapter. 1 second. And we have a sketchbook today related to this chapter. which is going to be the last sketchbook project of this course. So, so you're gonna submit all of the artworks in 2 weeks. So I need you to be prepared to finish all of your artwork. Probably you've done so far 7 artworks, right? So
Yeah, I have a question, Professor.
yes, Anna.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
It's okay.
Well, it's 7, but we will submit 6 because I'm thinking the photography is already submitted.
So let me reduce the amount of the submission. So we're gonna make, we include this project. You're gonna make 7 art pieces over the course, and then you can just submit 5 of them, okay, to get the full point. And if you want extra point, then you can. I need you to submit all the 7 pieces of artworks, okay?
So are we gonna do another one with another one?
Yeah, this is the last one.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yep.
And when is this due exactly?
Due is April 26th, Monday midnight.
The self-portrait, right?
Not this self-portrait. This self-portrait process due date is by tonight, just the process. And all the finished, at least the 5 artworks due date is going to be April 26th, Monday midnight.
All right. So tonight we have to like turn in like
Just the process, just of the process of this work.
okay.
All right. So for the last sketch, we're gonna make a transformational self-portrait drawing. So let's see what it is.
Professor,
Yep, and
I'm sorry, but I'm confused.
okay.
So, I just want to make sure, so I'm gonna,
Okay.
say it.
Okay.
So I have the first sketchbook, which is the name logo, right?
Name one.
The name logo, and we have what's the other one? The asymmetrical one, right?
Let me go to let me pause the recording. All right, so these are all the, abstract self-portrait styles. Like this. So just to choose one of the modern art movement after avant-garde and apply into your self-portrait style. So again, I need you to prepare 2 self-portraits. One can be representational style. That one, you can just take a picture for the, the representational style self-portrait. And for the non-representational style, it should be abstract style. And please choose one of the modern art movement. Here, Fauvism, Expressionism, Cubism, Dada, Surrealism, Idealism into your drawing. Any question?
So the representation style will be our pictures, right? Is that it?
Yes, for
And
the
the non-representation one will be one of these.
yes,
And
very
then we combine them together.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask too. Like, so I'm just taking a picture of myself first and then drawing one of these modern
Yes.
event pictures or something.
Exactly. So you can just take a picture of yourself and then use, any abstract, the art movement into your drawing. So just to make it abstract style.
So it doesn't have to really look like you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So everyone, when you're ready to post,
And you
okay.
you want us to send you the process like of the sketch tonight?
Yes, please. So please post to your the photo, your self photo, at least your photo, please post it. Okay. And when you can, or you can just, you can post to your the abstract self-portrait process. It will be good. Or you can just post to your photo for the representational style. It's totally okay, but I need you to write which the art movement after the avant-garde you're gonna apply into your non-representational self-portrait in the Moodle room tonight. So everyone, please go to week 13 and then go to sketchbook 13.1 to post to your work process. And this is going to be last sketchbook projects of this course. And then after next week, we're going to talk about how to submit your final sketchbook submission by the due date. I'm going to provide the format, so you can just take a picture of your finished artwork and then copy and paste it in the folder with the description. That's all. It's going to be very simple if you finish your artworks. Okay, so please prepare to submit it. One thing you have to do is finish all of your artworks. Okay, and we're making 7 artworks, but you can just submit 5 of them to get the full point. And if you submit all the 7 pieces, then you will get extra point on the final score.
Professor, will we be judged on how we draw? Because I really can't draw. Like, I really try.